Hi everyone and welcome back to Tennis Time. Although we have no crowd anymore, no spectators at the Australian Open, we still continue to be treated well and have some spectacular matches at the Australian Open. With a few exceptions though, but the match I want to address tonight, mostly the one which has been played against between Novak Djokovic and Alexander Zverev. The second quarterfinal was really a spectacular, exciting match to watch. After that, I'm going to talk to you about the Karatsev Dimitrov match very shortly, and then I'm going to preview the other two quarterfinal matches between Nadal, Tsitsipas, and Andrei Rublev against Daniil Medvedev. Alright, so let's start with Djokovic Zverev. So, in case you've been following the Aussie Open, you know, or even if you didn't follow it, you probably have heard that Djokovic had some drama going on at this edition of the Australian Open with his third round match where he picked up an injury in the third set, playing Taylor Fritz, being 2-love up, getting that injury in the third set, slipping on the Melbourne sign, injuring his right abdominal side. Although losing the third and the fourth sets against Fritz, he manages to pull through and win the fifth. He looked troubled and hurt, but nonetheless he managed to come through. In the next round against Raonic, a super big server, nonetheless a very bad record against Djokovic. Djokovic probably one of the best returners, if not the best returner in the game. Djokovic managed to pull that match off and won in 4 sets. Zverev, on the other hand, he had a more smooth route through his rounds. He's lost just 1 set against Marcos Giron in the first round. That was the very first set he played and lost. But after that, he didn't lose one single set. He played Cressy in the second round, very interesting player, playing serve and volley, and looks like a guy with 2 first serves. Played Mannarino in the third round. I had the feeling that Mannarino would be a guy who can trouble him more with his great defense, but no, that wasn't the case. I think that was the most convincing match Zverev played at this event. Against Lajovic, he played also okay. It was just enough to get him through in straight sets. He also seemed to be carrying some sort of abdominal injury, but if we look at the match today, what we saw on the court, neither player really looked too hindered, like they couldn't hit through or couldn't move properly. At least I didn't notice that. What I noticed though in the first set, especially in the first 4 games, Djokovic played really unlike Djokovic. We were expecting to see from the beginning a sort of match what we saw in the 4th set. The quality of tennis in the 4th set was the highest what we've seen in this entire match. But in the beginning, especially in the first 8 games, we saw something very strange going on, like Djokovic wanting to finish every point super quickly. He wasn't really running for any balls. Like if he got to a ball, he wanted to finish the point quickly. Either he drop shotted, either he hit the ball very hard, 1-2 punches, and the point was over. So the tactic was more efficient than what one would expect. Nonetheless, Zverev broke through in the very first Djokovic service game. He was leading with a break. He was 5-3 up. At 5-4, Zverev was serving for the first set. That was a moment when something changed. Djokovic managed to get back. He got back to 5-all, both holding their service games at 6-all, playing a tiebreak. It was a very tight tiebreak. And Zverev somehow sneaked it through at the end at 6-all. He won the next 2 points and got the first set in that tiebreak. So I think for Zverev, psychologically, it was really important to win that set. At least that was the impression I was having at that time, because he was the player who was ahead all the time. Would he have lost that set, it probably would have hurt him a lot psychologically. Now, thinking back, what happened was actually that he won that set. He relaxed somewhat. Djokovic wasn't playing a lot more better than he was in the previous few games, but he got 2 breaks against Zverev and he won the set 6-2. Ultimately, I don't know if Zverev would have lost that first set from a psychological perspective. Would the second set have played out the same way as it did? I don't know, we will never find out, but that was just a thought I had, that at the time when the match was going on and they were playing, I thought this is crucial for Zverev to win that first set, but in the end, I'm not sure if that helped him. If he would have lost it, then he would have said to himself, okay, I've played really well. I let up just for 1 bit and I lost the set, so I need to do even better in the second. But that's not what happened. He relaxed a little bit, and Djokovic is Novak Djokovic. He's the world number one, uh, and he got those 2 breaks, so he wasn't letting up at all. So, having said that, in the third set, I think both players knew this was really crucial territory. They had to make sure they win the third set. It can be a very, very important, potentially a deciding set in the entirety of that match they were playing. And Zverev really got off to a good start. He was serving first in the third set. He held, he broke. It was 2-love up. He held for 3-love. Then Djokovic serving, holding, and then Zverev was serving to go 4-1 up. And that was a hell of a game. It was so difficult for Zverev. And I think he was facing break points. He was missing his first serve, and then he hit his second serve at 218 kilometers per hour. That's something like 135 or 136 miles per hour. It's a really quick serve, and it was in. Djokovic got it back. They played out the point. 2 more forehand punches from Zverev. He wins the point. He wins the game. He's 4-1 up. So in situations like this, when you know great players are really playing really well, playing great tennis, wanting to win that match, you know that if they go through a game like that, they have every chance to close out the set, because the player at the receiving end, not managing to capitalize on those break points, can be so frustrating, so disappointing, and they fall apart and they think, okay, I've lost my chance. But no, this is not what happened, because Djokovic in the next game, at his service game, he held relatively easily, and then at 4-2 sort of serving, Djokovic gets the break. I mean, that was so anticlimactic for Zverev. I really thought after that game where he held for 4-1, this is his set, but no. So Djokovic breaks. He really, I think that was one of the most important segments of the entire match. At that game, him winning the 7th game in that third set. After that, he holds, he breaks Zverev again, so he goes 4-5 up. He goes 5-4 up, obviously, and then he serves out the set. So he's 2-1 up in the sets, and especially after the first set, you thought, okay, this is probably Zverev's day. So in the fourth set, that's the point where probably both of them got a bit more loose. Djokovic felt like, okay, I need to win one more set. I'm putting my energy and efforts into this one. I'm just making a supposition that this could have been the mindset he had. And Zverev was thinking, okay, I really have to put in everything right now, because if I'm not winning this fourth set, it's curtains and I'm going home. So basically, he starts the fourth set just like he did the third. He goes a break up, so it's 3-love. But when he was serving to consolidate the break after 2-love, he again has a very difficult service game, just like in the third set when he was trying to go 4-1 up. Um, and this time, a very similar story, tough service game, but he holds. And then Djokovic comes again, 3-1, and he breaks Zverev 3-2, and then equalizes, it's 3-all. And then each player holds serve, and then they go into a tiebreak. And this time it's Djokovic who obviously wins the tiebreak, with the same scoreline as Zverev did win the first, 8 points to 6 in the breaker. So obviously after the Raonic match, after the Zverev match, I understand that Djokovic is saying that he has an injury and he's carrying an injury, and obviously he would not have played like he did in the first 8 games, like he did, because that was definitely not the regular Novak Djokovic we normally see. But from a serving perspective, I mean, probably in while playing, he does not feel the hindrance too strongly when he serves. And he used that serve so effectively. He hit like 23 aces, I think, or maybe even more. But he definitely hit more aces than Zverev did. And that's very unusual because Zverev is 10 centimeters taller than he is. And he's, from a first serve perspective, Zverev is one of the best servers out there. So he outserved Zverev. So this shows again how really gritty and what kind of a fighting spirit Djokovic must have to be able to come up with a performance like that. Because serving is definitely, I mean, you know that Djokovic is a good server, but you wouldn't say he's an Ivanisevic-like server or a Federer-like server, or he's not a Zverev server if we take first serves. But today he was. So when he felt that he needed to do something that he normally doesn't do, and this was one of the keys for him to win the match, he did it. So that's really, really very impressive. I'm not sure how this injury is going to affect him in the next round, or if he wins the semis, what's going to happen in the final, but we will have to watch and see. Now, looking towards the next match, Djokovic is going to play. He's going to play Karatsev. So Karatsev was playing Dimitrov today, and Dimitrov started off well. He won the first set. He was still going strong in the second, and then something happened with his back apparently. So the trainer came on. He was still moving relatively okay in the second set, but in the third set he was completely gone. I mean, he won 3 more games in the third and the fourth sets, and that's a miracle that he managed to pull that off. I'm impressed with the fact that he finished that match. He could have retired easily. I mean, you could see that he could barely walk straight, let alone run or something. So that's disappointing. And this is probably one of the side effects of not having the tour played out regularly as they do have it at the beginning of the year. Players traveling to New Zealand, traveling to Australia, playing their warm-up tournaments, playing the normal Hopman Cup or ATP Cup or whatever, as they had it last year, and they had the Hopman Cup prior to that. So we had a tournament at Delray Beach and Antalya in the second week of January. Then we had a break of 3 weeks. And after that 3-week break, there was one tournament played in Melbourne plus the ATP Cup, or two tournaments, but both played simultaneously plus the ATP Cup. So that was not much of a preparation for the players. Next to that, there were a bunch of players who had to quarantine and they couldn't practice as they normally do. So I definitely see a correlation between that thing going on and these many injuries we've seen. And especially from an abdominal injury perspective, so many players having the abdominal injuries. Djokovic injuring himself, as I've talked about it extensively now. What else was there? Zverev also was carrying apparently some sort of slight abdominal injury because he also had a tape on his abdomen throughout the quarterfinal match. Then there was Pablo Carreño Busta also having to retire because of an abdominal injury. We had also Casper Ruud retire because of an abdominal injury. And we had many other injuries. I mean, like Thiem in his match against Dimitrov, he had to retire. He had probably some foot injury. As I've talked about, Dimitrov, the back injury. Coming into the tournament for Nadal, the other back problems, injury sort of thing. So many players, I'm just mentioning a few of them, having these injuries. So I'm really hoping the tour gets back to some more normal way of playing and practicing, so people and players will not have so many injuries. Okay, having said that, let's look forward to the Russian quarterfinal, Rublev against Medvedev. So these players have played each other 3 times on the main tour. Once they've played in a challenger before, and all 4 matches have been won by Medvedev. So if you take prior head-to-head, it doesn't normally always have to be a clear indication that one player is really... I mean, what I'm trying to say, if somebody has beaten the other one 4 times, that doesn't mean that the other one cannot win the next match. But if we take a look at Rublev and Medvedev, many people think or feel that Medvedev is just having a game which neutralizes Rublev's assets or strengths, let's put it like that. Because Rublev is a player who likes to play with high intensity, hits the ball hard. He likes to find angles on the court, but he's a hard hitter. He's a hard hitter with a very high intensity. And that's something that can put most opponents off. Medvedev doesn't have a problem with it. So Medvedev's strength is he can defend almost like no other. I mean, he's the Djokovic category of defending, or maybe even... I mean, it's probably not right to say even better, but his type of game is more suited to play defense almost permanently. So that's absolutely part of the game, of his game. So he's not the kind of aggressive player than Djokovic can be. He doesn't mix it normally so much like Djokovic would do. Having said that, I remember at the last year's US Open quarterfinal where he was playing Rublev, that I was so surprised because we all know how well Rublev hits the ball, how hard he hits it, and how of an attacking game he normally brings to the court. But Medvedev was even topping that. So he wasn't just defending superbly well and redirecting Rublev's balls and making him run from left and right all day long. He many times changed the pace, went on the offense, and he out-hit Rublev sometimes. He outperformed him from an aggression point of view. So that was very impressive, and I thought and I felt, okay, if Rublev doesn't add something special to his game, like going more to the net or playing more drop shots and drawing Medvedev in or doing something of the sort, I don't really see how Rublev could beat Medvedev. On the other hand, Medvedev has to be on. He has to be on his game. Otherwise, no matter how well suited his game to Rublev's is, and how unfavorable the matchup for Rublev might be in this encounter, so if Medvedev is a little bit off, then Rublev can beat him. So there's no doubt about it. But I think tomorrow in the quarterfinal, Medvedev is not going to be the one who is not going to play well. I think he's going to play well. He had already a strange experience in this tournament where he played Krajinovic and he won the first two sets, lost the next two, but won the final set 6-love. So he went through an experience which normally can help a player. So unless some other stupid injury comes into play, either for Medvedev or for Rublev, then I think we're going to have a superb match. Watch out for wonderful scrapping, wonderful hard hitting, great serving, great returning, great retrieving. So I think this is going to be a really spectacular match. And I'm going for Medvedev to go through and win it. If he plays well, but I think he will. Okay, going to the last quarterfinal. Nadal against Tsitsipas. So here we have a player who they've met, I think, 7 times, and Nadal has a 6-1 lead. They've played 4 times on a hard court. Out of those 4 times, twice outdoors and twice indoors. The 2 indoor matches were at ATP finals, both in group stages, and both being won by Nadal. And the other 2 outdoor matches also being won by Nadal. I think one was in the Toronto final in Canada, I think 2018, and the other one was of course at the Australian Open 2 years ago when they've met in the semi-finals and Nadal really crushed Tsitsipas. So this is an encounter or a matchup which normally would favor Nadal. The only time he's lost to him was on his own surface on clay, but that's a quick clay court in Madrid. So I think Tsitsipas is a lot more ready to face Nadal in a Grand Slam match than he was 2 years ago. He has a lot more experience, a lot more confidence. He's been in a semi-final since then before. He's played Djokovic last year at the French Open semi, where he played a 5-setter. He was a bit injured at the end, but nonetheless, I think he's, as I said, a lot more prepared to take on Nadal. If we simply look at the matchup, of course, Nadal with his lefty forehand to another single-handed backhand. Thiem is a guy who can neutralize with his single-handed backhand the Nadal forehand pretty much. Maybe not neutralize completely, but he can hold cannon to it. Tsitsipas' backhand, single-handed backhand, is not that strong. So it will be interesting to watch if the Nadal forehand, how much is that going to bother the Tsitsipas backhand and how much Nadal is going to use it. The ball is not going to bounce up that high because this court is not taking spin that well. So that may help Tsitsipas a little bit, I think. Because the ball is not going to bounce up that high. So he doesn't have to take it above shoulder height with his backhand. And he can probably use that to his advantage. But I still think Nadal has an edge in this matchup, even on this court, even if it's a lot quicker than it used to be, or it was at least last year. So I'm picking Nadal, and I'm thinking we're gonna have a Medvedev Nadal semi-final here. All right, let me know your thoughts, how you see the matches progressing. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell in case you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, enjoy the Australian Open, and see you next time.